Hi, I'm Chastity Reed. Ted Schilowitz, leader of the rebellion at Red, stopped by the May 2009 LA Red Users Group to show off the Red Pro Prime lenses and talk about the Red in general.
So there's today's 3D and then there's future 3D that we can refer to. So today's 3D is happening pretty robustly, actually surprising even to us at how much it's being adopted. I guess just industry-wide it's being adopted. So
it's like sound in 1928.
Yeah, it's happening, right?
Someone's
Someone's paying attention now. You know, the big 3D success story for us theatrically so far was this My Bloody Valentine movie that came out. They told me that they earned more than 80% of their revenues in the 3D theaters in a 3-week run. Right. And because they got pushed out by whatever the next animation movie was, they said it would have easily cleared 150 million in 3D if they could have left it in the theaters. But because there are still only so many 3D digital theaters out there, that's the challenge that I think the venue guys are going through. And what's interesting is, in sort of a strange back-end way, 3D may end up helping the adoption of 2D digital faster than just 2D digital, because they are seeing very, very strong revenue streams for 3D, and they have to put in digital projectors to make it work. So therefore they get the byproduct, and there's not this big, well, who's going to pay for it scenario, because now it's being paid for.
Plus, shooting with digital cameras, you can see the 3D while you're shooting it. You can see how it lines up as opposed to film.
Sure. Well, and also just for the display side of it, for the delivery side of it, more sophisticated on the digital side for the Dolby and the Real D process. So on our side, the 3D works for Reds work great in a beam splitter, which is what most people shoot, and then they'll shoot side by side for longer throw 3D stuff. The challenge that people have with shooting 3D now with Red for close focus stuff is the cameras are just physically too big to put 2 of them in a beam splitter and do handheld work or Steadicam work. So they use the SI camera, or they use the Iconics camera, or they use some other little head camera for their runaround 3D stuff, and that's what Bloody Valentine did. Now, you know, when we were screening all the DI stuff, every time the SI stuff came up, they were like, "Oh man, we wish we could have shot that in Red." So, well, yeah, I mean, but our audience, from a technical eye standpoint versus what the audience saw, it was fine, and it cut together fine, and there was no issue. And especially when those shots are so aggressive anyway, the resolution is less important because they're just running so aggressively with these little cameras. That being said, the next generation of cameras, which was the Scarlett and the Epic stuff, will do side-by-side 3D and have a small little mini mirror rig for those that need it to get really true overlay coverage for really close focus stuff. And now you're talking about a package that's this big, 2 cameras mounted in a little mini mirror rig that you could do handheld or Steadicam. So you'll get high res all the way.
What sensor size do you need on that?
So my guess is people will probably use the 5K sensor, the 5K Epic or Scarlett.
6 really to get it done. So at least you'd have like, because you're going to miss some of that sensor area for the 2 lenses.
Yeah, I mean it's happening now in 4K, which is effectively a little over 3K resolution on our sensor. And no one's complaining. I mean, you know, the resolution is fine. It looks great, and it holds up on the biggest screens fine. So, all we're doing next gen is upping the ante and giving you another 1,000 lines of resolution to work with. I would anticipate a lot of people will actually shoot 3D with the little 3K camera as well, the Scarlett with the smaller chip, because they want more depth of field in those cases, because it actually adds to the 3D effect. So,
it'd be interesting if you had lenses that were bent. You know, so at an angle, so that you could put the lenses closer together if you choose. One the camera can't, but then you could also turn them out to get wider if you want.
Yeah, there's all kinds of experimentation, third-party wise, that's going on with how do you take advantage of these different sensor sizes, and can you build single-element lenses that throw 2 images on a single sensor, or parallax lenses, or all kinds of things. It's not anything that I would say that we would probably be getting into hardcore, because the market is much smaller for that kind of stuff. But there are certainly third-party companies that are doing it now. I see stuff all the time, and you know, people are touching us all the time and saying, you know, can we experiment with this kind of stuff? Which is sure.
The mirror rig that you mentioned, are you building that?
We are not at this point in time building a mirror rig, but we never say never.
Oh, okay. No, just the way you said it, I wasn't.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm just anticipating with 2 bodies that are only yay big, the mirror rig today that's this big will become this big, and then
the tests that we did with the Reds found that we'd have to have too big a mirror system in front.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been recommended that we actually put a beam splitter between the lens and the camera, between the lens and the sensor.
Between the lens and the sensor.
There's a rig where you set it up that way.
Okay.
And so that you can deal with a mirror that's this size.
Oh, right, as opposed to throwing it in front of the whole lens itself.
For two
Sure.
reds, you're going to need
Yeah, no, it's a big box.
Beam splitter. And
Oh, that's interesting conceptually. Yeah.
the other thing that with My Bloody Valentine, when you get into the action scenes,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing you can do to hide its video source, which is good. I think the mistake that people are doing now are trying to make video do film. And for 3D, you want it to feel more depth,
Right.
more alive, and actually the faster rate video will give you that more.
Yeah.
I'd rather go with a 60 frames
Yeah, in
per
fact,
second video as opposed to, because you get a good film look to begin with the red.
Mhm.
The way it does the pastel, but there's no way you're going to hide the video thing when you get into real 3D on that.
Yeah, in
So
fact,
you might as well play it up.
I did a video conference last week with a whole technical group in Norway that was talking about digital show scan and delivering, shooting high rate and then projecting at a higher rate than 24. Right. So either 48 or 72, which gives you this hyper real effect, which is a whole nother way to deal with cinematography. The good news is that the next Reds, the Epic and the Scarlet, will shoot that full resolution at up to 100 frames a second. So then you can set it at 48 and then play back at 48. So it's no longer slow-mo, it's normal speed at 48. And it's, I don't know if you've ever seen what it does, but it's pretty intense to the point where, like, if you're watching action scenes, it can actually make you nauseous because it's just so real that you're watching it on this big screen and it's just too much. The temporal information is coming at you so fast that your brain can't process it. It's interesting.
On the existing digital projectors, would they have that capability?
Yeah, well, that's the back-end challenge, right,
Well,
that you always
right now,
have.
you're projecting at 144 frames a second of that. It's just they're repeating the same information. And your TVs are doing 120 hertz, and the common ones.
Yeah, these new LCDs are doing high scan rate stuff.
So, you know, I
But I'm
ultimately
saying on the
think that's
existing
going to be
base
wrong.
Yeah.
that's in the theaters now.
Anyway, we could talk about that forever, but I would imagine you guys want to talk about optics. So
Sorry.
that's good. That's okay. So where do we leave off on the lenses?
We haven't even started the lens.
Oh, okay, then there we go.
So that's the 18 to 50 at around 35.
Okay, so this is our existing lens. This lens costs $5,000. It's actually used quite a bit. There are some pros and cons to a lens like this. The pros are it's very lightweight. It has a nice soft zoom range. Most people use it as a variable prime, unless you're doing relatively sort of mid-level or low-level stuff where the breathing is not as much of a concern for you. But for a big feature film with a big cinematographer that has a real sense of photographic delivery, he's likely not going to use this lens. That being said, Steven Soderbergh shoots with this lens all the time because he likes this kind of rough and tumble look in the movies that he makes. He's not going for this sort of very refined kind of big, I don't know the best way to describe it, big 1950s kind of VistaVision look. He wants something more intimate, and he likes the fact that this lens is so short and compact and easy to use. And he just kind of has one lens on his Red, and he just goes out and shoots. So that's one way of making the Red work for you. The flip side is, and then when we throw up the 35 prime, I'm not sure how much we'll see a difference on this monitor because obviously this is just the video tap on the Red. So this is 720p, so it's a tenth of the resolution of the picture. But we did this test in Vegas, and we compared some different lenses, and we actually had a 2K projector, so we were throwing it up on this big screen. It was like just the world's largest monitor to use, and it was pretty remarkable how much hand this lens had, and cinematographers that really know their craft and know what to look for were really commenting on how nice the fall off was and the resolution versus fall off. So that's the 18 to 50.
The LA Red Users Group meets monthly at Kappa Studios in Burbank. From Hollywood, I'm Chastity Reed.